Hi everyone, this is Brian Neal with TradeToBeFree.com and InvestBeFree.com, and today I want to go over some of the trades that we're in and we're watching here. The first chart I've got up here is Lam Research, which is a really top growth stock in its space in semiconductors, and we featured this as our #1 trading setup for the coming week on Monday evening, and we can see it's already making a big move higher. But one of the great things about this stock, and the reason why we chose it for a swing play, a longer term swing trade, was that it had this very strong long-term uptrend support and this strong long-term uptrend. This is a 1-year chart, a daily chart. I go back 2 years and you can see this very strong uptrend where the stock has more than doubled over the past year or so, I believe it is. And if we go back to, let's say, a 6-month chart here, or even a 3-month chart, we can better see the pattern we were looking at within this long-term uptrend. And one of the things we talk about in our training videos is to look for these long-term uptrends, look for top growth stocks, and try to find really bullish patterns within that long-term uptrend. And here we have a case where we have a fairly sharp decline from the highs here, and when we see a sharp decline, we want to see at least a double bottom pattern or a rounding bottom pattern. And in this case, we saw the double bottom pattern here where we had this high here, followed by another pullback with a higher low. We had 2 candles that made lower lows. That's key, okay? That sets up, or that establishes the short-term downtrend, which stops short of the prior low, and then the price comes back and exceeds the prior high. That's a double bottom pattern, and that's a really good swing trading entry point in a long-term uptrend. Now, if the decline is really big, then we're probably capped by the 4 to 10% from the ideal entry point or the recent high up in here. But given that it's not that steep of a downtrend, it continues to make higher highs. It looks like it may not consolidate for a lot longer here. It's got a good chance of breaking the highs here and going higher beyond that. But at this point, the ideal entry point's already come and gone on this, so you want to look for another good setup on a top growth stock. But by getting that ideal technical entry point as the market's rebounding on a top growth stock, you've got a really good shot at making a nice gain, and that's what we're seeing right now with LRCX. Another top stock we've had recently that came off a really big earnings release, just like Lam Research, was Court Pharmaceuticals, and we had this stock a couple times in the daily alert and weekly alert. Over the past few weeks, we caught it here around 12. I think it was around 1250 or so, or 1230 originally. Then we had another entry point up in here, and we can see now after the big earnings beat, we're up on this entry point up in here. We're up like 20%, I believe, close to 20% on that, and the original entry point, I think getting close to 25-30% on that entry point. So that continues to run here, in a typical slow August market. So now that we've seen this clearing of this high, it looks like the stock is probably going to go up, or may do an ABC up pattern here, where if you take the low from this candle up to the high here, take that distance and project it from the low here, you can get a target of around 17 and change. So it may make that kind of move, although in August, when you typically have lower volume, like we're seeing right now, you often see moves that fall short. And another thing we're seeing right now too, and that's also typical of August, is when a stock, falls below a key support area for a day or 2 or 3, and then rebounds strongly back above it. And you'll often see those support levels give a little bit more during August than other times of the year, because you just have fewer traders, fewer fund managers in the market trading and buying stocks. But we are seeing some buying now after some of these big earnings beats the past few weeks, and a few of them are really going higher. Along with LRCX, we also had a top stock from a couple weeks ago. I haven't checked this recently, but MTOR, and that stock got off to a pretty good start here, but then it pulled back, and now it's trying to get back into this uptrend here. had a very good earnings beat, has a reasonable valuation, it's got a good chart pattern it's breaking out of here. And if you go back a year, you can see this, how it made the new highs, pulled back, and then went back into new highs again. And in this area over here, you often see that big move starting, breaking out of this consolidation here. So we're seeing if we get that. We've got the fundamentals in place where we had the big beat and raise, and also have a reasonable valuation in this too. So we're watching that for another move higher, and still pretty close to a good technical entry point here. On a 5 or 10 minute chart over the past few days, you can look for one of these small double bottom patterns here, or some other bullish pattern on a 10-minute chart for an entry point in that larger swing trade that generally will take a few weeks to, at least 2-3 weeks to develop and to move higher and take another leg higher. So that's another one. We also had another stock, TNET, and that was our number 2 pick this past week. And that one still hasn't reached the entry point yet. We're waiting for it to go above 38.55. And the other stock that we had last week as our top pick for the week was MKSI, and we see a real nice move now developing on MKSI. Our entry point was $70 or $80, I believe, when it was featured last Monday, right around there. And we see it's already up, let's see, 4 or 5%, I think. Is that right? 3-4%, I believe, right now. So that one looks pretty good too. Although it may consolidate once it gets up to here, it may consolidate some more, given that it's August before it makes its next move higher. So yeah, and as far as the earnings eruptions trades, we had a big earnings beat and an earnings eruption set up on Friday of last week, and we finally found one of these that met the conditions and the criteria in the course that failed. And it took a really big increase in volatility. Volatility increased 70% within a couple days. This was a recent IPO, which tend to not perform as well as other stocks. Out of these chart patterns, it took a Friday, which tends to have less volume and less follow through on the upside. In August, usually you get an August pullback in early to mid-August. We talked about that in the newsletter at the end of July. But all those factors combined finally took down one of these trades that met the criteria. The stock gapped up just high enough to meet the requirements. It had a pretty bullish pre-market pattern, not a whole lot of volume pre-market though. That's one little concern, but still it met the criteria in the course. Hit the entry point, but then pulled back sharply. And we actually had a problem with our broker, where it wasn't acknowledging the position in the account. We had to go online and go to the website instead and sell the position. So we sold a little bit lower than what we wanted to, but it wasn't too bad. And we took a small position because of all the factors that I was talking about before. The fact that it was on Friday. Fridays you generally have fewer traders, less volume, and a less follow through on these trades, and they just don't work quite as well. And you generally have to take a wider stop loss. And what we say in the course is that you can still trade them, but you want to take a wider stop loss and take a smaller position size. And sometimes they work out. There's been a few on Fridays over the past few weeks that have done really well. This one didn't. And again, with that huge surge in volatility we saw on Thursday and Friday, that 70% increase in the VIX, I think that combined with everything else and the Qs diving that morning finally harpooned a earnings eruptions trade this quarter. But overall, that trading setup continues to be our number one day trading setup that we're seeing in terms of performance over the past couple quarters and really over the past couple years in our personal experience. So still really good strategy, and should continue to do well next quarter, unless we see a really strong bear market conditions, next quarter. If we see that, then we'll probably avoid that trade. But other than that, in the absence of that, we'll be trading that again next quarter, and we'll see bigger moves because more traders will be in the market. We'll have more volume as we normally do in October and November, early November. yeah, just want to give you an update. And again, some of these swing trades on these stocks that really crushed earnings expectations and set up a really good bullish short-term pattern within a long-term uptrend are doing pretty well. You got to be really selective. You can't just, buy any stock. Here's a good example of that. Today we had Urban Outfitters that had a big gap up, and a lot of people were eyeing this trade from. Let me go back 6 months here, and you can see this better. A lot of people saw this between, say, 20 or so and up to, I think, 22 over here, a little below 22. They saw that there, and they thought you could play a trade between 21 and 23. And the only problem with this trade, though, is that you've got this real long-term downtrend. If you go back 2 years, you can see this 1 year and 2 year charts. You can see this very entrenched downtrend. And when you see that, these earnings trades tend not to work as well. So we avoid taking large position sizes on these type of trades. Now, we did take a smaller position size because there is a large gap between, about 21 and 23 on this. I'm sorry, 20 and 22 on this. So as it was breaking out of 20 pre-market, we were thinking it may go ahead and fill that gap or fill that space between 20 and 22. And, it was worth a shot on a small position size. But, again, without the fundamentals supporting a very strong long-term uptrend, those trades tend to not work as well. It didn't really satisfy the criteria in the earnings eruptions course because it had that long-term downtrend going into the trade. So that's one thing that's really important. A lot of traders overlook. They think fundamentals don't matter in the short term, and they really do to some extent. So yeah, some of these will work out, but the percentage of success on these, especially in an August market, where you have less volume, is going to be lower than it will be on a top growth stock in a long-term uptrend that's gapping higher. And whether it has overhead resistance or not, it's still likely to do really well if all the factors are in place talked about in the earnings eruptions course. So it's a really good example of why fundamentals matter, even in trading, short-term trades, and why it's a good idea to learn all the rules that we have and have a very clear set of rules in your trading strategy to increase your likelihood of success, because that's the real key. You want to take these trades that have, the big potential of making 5, 10%, 20%, like we saw with STMP, out of the earnings eruptions trade this quarter, and other stocks that made big moves out of that earnings eruptions trade within a couple days. You want to catch those trades, but you want to know the difference between a really good setup and one that just doesn't have the fundamentals to support a big move higher. And one of the things you got to look for is the trend on a long-term time frame, okay? And overhead resistance, yeah, that's good to have these, target points where you can point to and say, yeah, it found support here at 22, so that's a good target for this trade. That's all great and well and good, but if people got in at these price levels through here, they're going to sell as the price goes into there, because oftentimes they're just looking to get back break even after they bought, thinking the stock was really cheap, ignoring the long-term downtrend and the long-term technicals in the stock. And once they get down 20% on the stock, they think about getting out at break even if they can. So that's one of the things you want to watch out for, even on short-term trades, is that long-term trend and making sure it's going north from left to right, going higher from left to right, and not lower from left to right over a year or two. So right now we have our summer sale going on, so we find these top growth stocks in really good long-term uptrends that are very near a ideal technical entry point. We have a lot of the patterns really explained well on our YouTube channel, and we feature stocks that have the fundamental momentum to make a much higher move. Those stocks are featured on our newsletter. In our newsletter, we have about 5 per week, and you can go to our site and sign up for a free trial for 3 weeks with just a name and email address. And if you want to go ahead and get full access for a month of the site and everything, all the featured trading setups, you can go to site and sign up for our summer sale. We have a summer sale going on where we have full access for a month, okay, for $27, but that includes the book on our trading methodology that explains these long-term swing trades, such as the one on LRCX. It's already up 4 or 5% this week within a couple days, and has a really good shot at making a really big move. Where we featured Court, right before it made a more than 20% move higher, and still in a nice strong uptrend, and is poised to, maybe go up to 17 or more within the next week or so. So you can get stocks like that at a really good entry point. You can take fewer trades, make more money, and have fewer commissions, and spend less time trading. And you'll save yourself a lot of time by letting someone find the best setups for you in the market, and then look at those best setups and doing your own due diligence on each one and picking your favorites, and then having the time to manage the trade rather than spending hours a day trying to find these setups yourself. So you can go to our site and get that summer sale while it's going on. It'll be going on for another probably a couple weeks. Probably through Labor Day I'll have that on there. So get over there and sign up for that. Just I'll put a link down below for it in the description on YouTube, so you can go ahead and sign up, or on the blog I'll put a link on there as well, and you can go to our homepage and just click on the current deal button, and that offer will come up and you can take advantage of that. So all right guys, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again real soon.